There's no dignity for our people to be standing alongside the street just tapping water from a truck where somebody is making a lot of money. This must end. And suddenly there are all these very important business people who...
So in the whole, the city of Tshwane, like many other municipalities in the country, spend too much on water tankers.
We have for waste collection, we've implemented 3 new rules with waste removal contractors. The first is that their vehicles have to be newish and roadworthy. The second requirement is each of those waste removal trucks must have tracking devices so we can see where they are. Third requirement is that they must have e-NATIS documents. Also, if they use subcontractors, all of those rules have to apply to the subcontractors. Again, it's about making sure that you get value for the money that you pay.
Take care of this. So just balance it through so we can understand.
I want to give a quick answer, so just to put your mind at ease.
Sure.
Tshwane's 9 years is already a concession to new entrants in the markets. To use 9-year-old trucks, you won't be able to do it in Joburg. You won't be able to do Ekurhuleni. They require 5 years. And we had this discussion. So having a 9-year-old truck, the ability to deploy a second-hand car essentially for new entrants into the subcontracting business, that is baked into it. That was not what upset the existing service providers. You could very established waste contractors, not new entrants into the market.
Yeah.
They just upset because we implementing standards.
Water tanker mafias.
You know, it is the bane of anybody's existence who really cares about communities having access to proper water and sanitation. It is a massive multi-billion rand, multi-hundreds of million rand industry in this country. And the simple thing you have to understand about water tankers is if the taps don't work, or if the municipality can't deliver clean water, water tankers will not just be in business, they'll be a growing business. So there is an incentive for the system not to work. The Hammanskraal water project that we devised in my term of office, it includes building the package plant by Magali's Water at Klipdrift to give people clean water from the Pienaars River instead of the Apies River. Unfortunately, that project is behind, but it does have the promise of finally giving the residents of Hammanskraal clean water in their taps instead of having to depend on water tankers. If that water project works in Hammanskraal, it saves the municipality 70 million rand in stationing water tankers there every year. Now think of the other...
Wait. 17 million?
70, about 70.
70 million
a year
is what the city of Tshwane pays to have water tankers as contingencies
in Hammanskraal only.
In Hammanskraal only.
Yes, the bigger bill is about 350-400 million, and under the ANC coalition, it was increased by 64%. And remember, this is not water tankers to informal settlements. This is water tankers when the taps don't work. This is for formalized areas. I'm not even talking about informal settlements because that obligation to serve informal settlements, it's there. You can't tinker with that. Obviously, we have to install taps there. I am talking only about the contingency if people can't get clean water or if the taps are down.
So you're claiming a contingency of 400 million in case you deviate from water provision.
Yes.
400 million.
Yes. And that shows you the vested interest. So what I was about to say, if the city implements Hammanskraal water solution, city saves roughly 70 million a
for
year.
Hammanskraal only.
But think of the other guy's balance sheet or income statement rather. The water tankers are going to lose 70 million. And what do you do there?
They sabotage.
Where are you going to make your money? So I'm not saying that there's a conspiracy to sabotage. All I'm saying is look at the vested interests, at things not working. And then you understand the fight we are up against for a capable state, for a caring state, a state that can actually deliver. The other problem that you have with water tankers and that kind of business, you've got a media operation. You've got a certain barriers to entry. You've got to understand these technical things and the lights and the sound, and you've got to do a bit of investment. Maybe you've got something, another job on the side that you have to balance. There's a certain expertise that you need to deliver. The barriers to entry to the water tankering business is, do you control the streets? Do you have the muscle? And unfortunately, it is then a business that goes to strongmen. Let's use the word strongmen. And sometimes you need strongmen to get things done. Certain businesses are tougher than other businesses. But if we increase our dependence on water tankers instead of services in the ground, instead of water towers and installation of taps, then this country is going in the wrong direction. Imagine what you can do if you take half of that money, half of the 400 million, and you actually install infrastructure. That is what's going to give you your gains. But it's not just about talking. It's about actually delivering it on the ground and standing up to those vested interests.
Sure. Okay. So there was a time you spoke about, and I disagreed with you. There was a time you spoke about entry into, the refuse trucks. Yeah, and I understand you, and I virtually agree with you on this
The
part.
performance standards on the collector.
Yes, I understand this part where you say they must have tracking systems. You see, if he invoices that I did Denville, and you should actually see their metadata.
Where they use the trucks.
Where I disagreed with you is, and it seemed to be an impediment for new entrants into the market, is to say, did you say it should not be less than 9? It should not be over 9 years. I can't remember quite well. Do you not think if you are too stringent, you will only cater for markets that are existing, meaning new people will not be able to break into new industries?
Listen, if you land a contract with government, say for 5 years, a serious contract like that, or a subcontract to a contractor, you will be able to approach most financing institutions for support. Now, it is assumed that you know a little bit about the business, and you're not exactly like a tuck shop operator who currently becomes a waste collector, because that's the other part of the problem.
I want you to hold there, and apologies for doing that.
Yeah.
Please explain to the audience, how likely is it to get a contract without having infrastructure? Because before you give someone, you'd want to check their infrastructure. So it's for us who are not in that business, we would think government is so difficult because it can't give you, for lack of a better word, a purchase order to say, yeah, we can work with you if you can provide this. So someone could go to the bank and say, Tshwane promised to give me this if I raise enough money to buy adequate equipment to take care of this. So just balance it through so we can understand.
I want to give a quick answer, so just to put your mind at ease.
Sure.
Tshwane's 9 years is already a concession to new entrants in the markets. To use 9-year-old trucks, you won't be able to do it in Joburg. You won't be able to do Ekurhuleni. They require 5 years. And we had this discussion. So having a 9-year-old truck, the ability to deploy a second-hand car essentially for new entrants into the subcontracting business, that is baked into it. That was not what upset the existing service providers. You got very established waste contractors, not new entrants into the market.
Yeah.
They just upset because we implementing standards, whereas they want to run trucks that break down, and then we get blamed. The politics, the streets are dirty.
Yes.
And what are the areas that get neglected? It's townships. It's townships that get neglected by bad service providers, because you have that existing disparity, and you don't have the concentration, and you don't have right next to municipal headquarters. So ensuring that waste collectors maintain standards is it's not for the wealthy. It's especially for vulnerable communities who tend to be shafted by people who have got contracts with government. But you put out your tender, and this is the municipality system. Ideally, we should have our own trucks. We should have our own capacity instead of relying on service providers. But be that as it may, we've got to deliver the service. And then the municipality appoints service providers who've got to show their capacity. And those service providers then subcontract to smaller operators. And that is where there is a measure of supporting small and medium enterprises. There would be an appointment letter. You take the appointment letter to the bank. You'll say, I've got so much. I might have 2 waste removal trucks. I've secured a contract. Please give me financing on a 3rd truck or a 4th truck. And that is how you would structure it. Now, all of those things are important. They're very important. We have to support SMMEs, but the number one consideration of government.
I remember a story of that nature. Essentially, what they do is they sabotage the water infrastructure. To this area.
100%. The water tanker.
Deliver water tankers for reprieve. 3-4 days, let's say, without water. Per water tanker, if they're getting 100,000 rand, for argument's sake, for the water tanker to go and deliver 40,000 liters of water, they're sending like 20, 30 water tankers a day. It's a quick 6 bars. You understand what I'm saying? And then they switch the water back on. So that was the story I heard in KZN at that time. But with the rate at which the water infrastructure appears to be falling apart, clearly that water tanker contract must have skyrocketed in value. So if he's saying that people are doing it on purpose, or it's being sabotaged by whoever these people are, that should be something that should be at the top of the priority agenda. You know, we can't be having that.
I found it, I normally get gaslit when Cyril speaks, just generally. I found it interesting that he can use terms like mafias and sabotage, and he has the ability, because nothing's been proven, as far as I know. No one's been arrested. It wasn't like we found the guys who sabotage infrastructure. We found out they are linked to. So Cyril is doing what we do on podcasts. He's spreading rumors and coming up with theories. And it's like, until you guys have done that, sure. But it's interesting that you understand this dynamic, that there's a straight line. And we are not allowed to draw a straight line and say, but when power plants are having issues, when we have load shedding, there might be mafias on the other side who are benefiting. And who are these people?
Diesel.
Where is this diesel coming from? And I found myself just intrigued that Ramaphosa can say something like this. And I was wondering if it's because his business associates are not linked. And it's more, you know, when you speak about Zuma's tenderpreneurs and the fraud, it's the guys. It's not the big boys.
The water tanker contracts are blacks, my man. Straight up.
Small guys.
Small guys.
But he wouldn't say the same when we speak about the coal mafias and the diesel mafias and those.
I think that's another thing that state capture showed us is the magnitude of the contracts. Bro, like some of those figures that you hear, or Exar or Nabukle & Co, in terms of the tonnage of coal that they deliver, at what price? It's stupid money. It's billions and billions of rands. You understand? When you calculate that over the period of time that they've held the contract, I think for the first time during the state capture inquiry, we were put on to the fact that there are families in South Africa that own these mines that have made so much money. It's almost unfathomable.
It is unfathomable.
Yeah. You know, when a mine is delivering 100,000 metric tons of coal to a particular power plant a month, and they're charging 550 rand per ton on that coal. And you know what the cost of coal is to get it out the ground, especially those large scale mines. Your costs come down significantly. So if it's costing them 250 rand, let's say, per ton, they're making a profit of 300 rand per ton. They're transporting it from the mine to the power station at 50 rand per ton. That's a clean 250 per ton times 100,000 every single month. For 5 years.
They've had it for
year on year. 5 years renewable. They've had it now for 15 years.
This unfathomable. Oh, my English bundles are not here today. There's a guy on the Joe Rogan Experience who's like, people speak about 1 billion and they don't really know what that means. And he asks Joe Rogan, how long is like 1 million seconds? And he makes an estimate and he's like, yeah, it's 11 days. 1 million seconds. This is now the difference between 1 million and 1 billion.
Right.
1 million seconds, 11 days. He's like, how long do you think 1 billion seconds are? And he's like, 31 years. From 11 days to 31 years, to just put it into perspective.
So here's a question. How bad is South Africa's corruption problem? Let's take the water mafia. There are people who deliberately damage our water infrastructure so they can win tenders to be able to deliver water to residents who now no longer have any other option but to go to the trucks. Now here's the catch. The more water these trucks can go and collect, the more they can invoice, because nobody actually checks if the water they collect was indeed delivered.
So that actually,
So there I am, minding my own business, when I encounter a water delivery truck dumping thousands and thousands of liters on a random suburban street. I actually got out of the car and I asked the driver what he was doing. He said no, he had to dump all of that water because his truck is stuck and it won't be able to move unless he dumps it. Do you want to know what the kicker was for me? There were chaps on the side of the road watching me take videos of this whole fiasco, and they were encouraging this man who's dumping the water to grab my phone, because how dare I expose all of this? These are chaps who are probably unemployed, just watching all of this on the side of the road. They had nothing to do with this truck. They had no dog in the fight, but they were incensed that somebody could dare to object. And that, my friends, is how bad corruption is in South Africa.
Water entrepreneurs, the water mafia, make a lot of money from water tankers when water supplies are cut off, whether deliberately or by damage or freak accident or whatever it may be. We've had this kind of experience before in other parts of the country, but never threatened, because communities know we're bringing water to them for free. 2 or 3 days ago, our teams in Mthatha said, a black Fortuner drove past them and swore them and told them to get out of the area and not to provide water there, if they don't get hurt. Of course, we don't take things like that lightly. And just a warning to those people, don't mess with us. The police will come for you, the municipality will come for you, and the community will come for you.
There's a water mafia in South Africa. Here's 3 ways they are stealing your water. The water tanker mafia. They destroy water infrastructure so that they can get tenders from government to provide water tankers to communities at high prices. The water mafia intimidates people. They stop people who are cleaning up rivers and dams and demand protection fees. The water mafia charges people for free water. Government officials sell water that's meant to be free to the public to desperate communities. Water is a basic human right that we all need to survive, and criminal syndicates are exploiting it for their own benefit. We are seen. Are you?
Residents of Tshwane, we are fighting very hard to get you value for the money that you pay for the services that you get for the city. Unfortunately, as happens, we get resistance when we do that. I want to speak to you today with MMC Ziyanda Tshwane, responsible for environment, about a new system we have for waste collection. We've implemented 3 new rules with waste removal contractors. The first is that their vehicles have to be newish and roadworthy. The second requirement is each of those waste removal trucks must have tracking devices so we can see where they are. Third requirement is that they must have e-NATIS documents. Also, if they use subcontractors, all of those rules have to apply to the subcontractors. Again, it's about making sure that you get value for the money that you pay for bin lifting. In response to this, which has led to about a change of 60%, so 60% of the previous contractors were not retained because of these new value requirements, there has been resistance. Yesterday, there was violence at landfill sites. The Tshwane Metro Police Public Order Policing was deployed to restore order. But we've also had instances where officials of the city have been threatened by people with business interests who can't comply to the new rules. And we've simply put our foot down. So what we expect, as with all of these instances, is that those who stand to benefit from you not getting value for money, will fight back, will revert to criminality, but we won't stand for it. We will not stand for it. And I just want to give MMC Tshwane an opportunity to reflect on the road ahead.
Thank you very much, EM. What we are doing actually is to make sure that we run a service that is efficient as much as possible. There's been disruptions and threats to our truck drivers in the landfills for the past 2 days. The service has been disrupted, but we have a plan in place to make sure that we address the backlog. And also we have a team that is on standby to make sure that our streets are clean again, because we can't run a risk of having streets that are dirty while you as customers, you are paying for the service that you are receiving. So all what we are doing is to make sure that the service is efficient and effective enough. Thanks.
Cleaning up and cleaning out, building a capital city that works for all of its people.
Thirdly, there are committee members who are able to buy static tanks, your Jojo tanks or any other brand. We appreciate that. But the challenge, and we want to raise this to you so that you collaborate with us as a city. So once the system starts running and most people have connected,
there's no dignity for our people to be standing alongside the street just tapping water from a truck where somebody is making a lot of money. This must end. And suddenly there are all these very important business people who drive around in fancy cars, but who have water trucking businesses, when water should be transported through pipes. No, what they do, they get their henchmen to go and cut the water lines and then make sure that there's failure by the local authority to deliver water, leading to the alternative of relying on them to transport water, because they make money out of transporting water. Make it their business to go and cut water lines, to create businesses for themselves so that they can cut water in trucks and tanks to our people. Now that is the criminality that has now entered the water space. And this is what we must collectively talk about here and find ways of bringing that to an end. That should end is a must. We must bring that to an end.
The corruption that is happening at a local level, particularly if you consider the issue of water tankers, we know who are the people who are doing this. There is nothing that happens that is corruption related at a local municipality or at a municipality without a politician knowing, without a municipal official knowing. That is a fact. What is the problem? The problem is that unfortunately, our SAPs, our law enforcement agencies, have for such a long time really not had the support, the financing, the budget to really enable them to fight crime. What then happens is in communities is that when somebody reports to say, I know a brother X, for example, who is doing this, who is closing valves, who is doing this in order to enable person C, to come in with his water trucks to be able to then provide water to communities. That person, once you are a whistleblower in South Africa, we know what has happened to whistleblowers. And that is the biggest crisis that we're also kind of looking at from a corruption point of view. So we will need an intergovernmental approach in order to be able to deal with the issue of corruption, in order to be able to deal with the issue of tankering, because it is unsustainable. The city of Tshwane at one point had spoken about increasing their budget for tankering to over 200 million. It's absurd.
We are here in reservoir that supplies the east of Mamelodi, and there's places that don't have water, so we've been wondering why they don't have water. So we came here, we realized that there's no maintenance that is taking place in this reservoir. There's no cap that is closing where the water is. So it means City of Tshwane is not maintaining this reservoir. And another thing, we are wondering why the people of Ikageng, Pumulong, and other areas are not getting water for the past 5 years. So that's why we are here to do some site inspection. But we realize that there is no maintenance that is taking place in this area, and we're not understanding why there's no water supply into those areas that are lacking water. Thank you.
And 400 million rand on water tankers. This is divided into two parts. The one is rudimentary services to informal settlements, which we know grows by the month as people urbanize and as there is pressure on the city to provide rudimentary services. That is provided by the Human Settlements Department. The other area of water provision is through the Utilities Department, and that is typically such as a case like Temba, where we've said that the water is not of potable standard, and so we've got to take additional measures. Or if there's a Rand water outage or a Magali's water outage, then we send in the water tankers as a stopgap measure or to provide water in the meantime. So those are the global figures. It is a lot of money. I mean, it's close to the figure that the city spends on repairs and maintenance, and it's simply too much. We have to reduce this cost, and we also have to examine the cost per water tanker. The information that has been provided to me is that on average a water tanker costs between 3,000 and 3,500 rand per day, depending on the size of the community and the geography. So that gives you an indication. Also, the input costs into running a tanker is comparatively low, and so this is a lucrative business, and we will need to see how do we reduce our dependence on water tankers over time. I hope that answers the question in terms of the costs.